Recording in progress.
Okay, we'll call our meeting to order for the West Haven City Council. My name's Mayor Rob Vanderwood, and we'll be moving forward with our agenda that we have set today. Today's October 19th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And we want to welcome our council members that are here. We're missing 2 council members that are on Zoom. I assume they're up and running on Zoom? Not yet? Okay, they'll probably be joining us as soon as we get that up and running. And we're glad to have them. We have our staff present with us, a lot of our staff that's here, and we appreciate them being here to work through some of the details. And we appreciate those that are here with us tonight. We'll get started with our opening ceremonies. It's item number 2 on our agenda. And we'll start out with a Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Call and a prayer or moment of silence with Councilmember Saunders.
Please stand for the pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered here as a city council and as citizens of the city and as guests of the city, and we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to meet, and we're grateful for this country that we live in, for the freedoms that we enjoy. We ask a blessing to be with those who participate tonight, that all of us will be respectful and professional, that we will be guided by thy wisdom in our decisions, and we pray for the leadership of our country, for those that serve in the armed forces, for all those who serve our community in any way. We ask that thou would bless them for their efforts and watch over and protect them. We say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I want to thank Councilmember Collin, Councilmember Saunders for the opening ceremonies. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda is public presentation. Residents attending this meeting will be allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any issue presented. Do we have anyone that would like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. We'll move on to item number 4, upcoming events. Our next upcoming events we have is for our senior lunch bunch in October 26th. That'll be at 11:30 a.m. So we got a great lunch planned for that with some games on the Halloween side of things. So we're looking forward to having a great group and a lot of fun that afternoon. So if you're interested in coming, you're welcome to attend. The next thing would be Howdy Hall with the mayor and friends. That's on October 26th, and that will be from 5:30 to 6:30, and that's an opportunity for you to come and speak about anything you'd like with the mayor and possible council member. So we'll have that set up and ready to go for everybody, anybody that would like to attend. Another item on here set up is our pumpkin walk is set up for October 27th, and that's at 6 p.m. And we've got the youth council involved with that, and we're real excited to see how that turns out this year because it's going to be fun, I'm sure. It was fun last year as well. And then our dumpster days is October 27th through the 29th, and that will be where you can bring your trash over to the Kenneth Baldwin Country Park, and that we'll have dumpsters set up there for specifics for that particular day. On the 29th, we'll also have available our green dump that we can dump over by the arena, and that would be just limited to any branches that are 5 inches and under. So looking forward to that. Does the council have any other upcoming events?
Just a note on the pumpkin walk, which is a non-pumpkin walk, but the luminaries will be going out to the schools on Friday. So we expect a larger participation because we have more luminaries than we did pumpkins. So we're excited.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. We'll move on to item number 5 on here, if there isn't anything else. For council updates, is there any council updates that we can share with the public?
Just held our last beautification committee meeting, and I want to publicly thank those who participated. We just kind of had a wrap up for the 2022 season. We'll start back up again in 2023 sometime, and appreciate those who have been involved and participated in that. Thank you very much.
Very good. We'll look forward to that, and thanks for your work on that. Councilmember Call, do you want to give us an update? Because I skipped it last time on the Arts Council and how that went.
The Evening of Arts?
The Evening of
Oh.
Arts.
Yeah, I think it was successful. We had more people come out than last year. The vendors were happy. A lot of different entertainment, which was fun to be a part of. The committee had a great time. We got good feedback. So I think overall it was a great success. Good food vendors.
Fantastic. That's what we need to hear. Thank you. Appreciate that. Is anything else? Okay, we'll move forward and to item number 6 on here. Action on consent agenda. The consent agenda is item number A is our special city council work session minutes that were held on October 4th. Item B is for our city council minutes that were held on October 5th. Item C is for Weber County Transfer Station for $24,726.34. Item D is for Waste Management for $30,000, $247.65. Item E is for the Salt Lake Bees for the baseball and softball teams on there for $16,532. Item F is for Weber County Sheriff's Department for their third quarterly payout on our contract for $443,750. And item G for American Pavement Markings, LLC for $50,930.46. Is there any questions on the consent agenda? No questions? We'll open for a motion.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda items A through G as stated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
and Councilmember Morse. Is she on
Aye.
here? She's here. And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Very good. So we do have everybody here. Thank you. Consent agenda does pass on here. All right, moving on to item number 7, action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. Item A would be for action on ordinance for 28-2022 for master development agreement, preliminary subdivision and site plan approval for West Haven Villas subdivision at 2069 West and 2200 South. This is for Leisure Villas. Do we have a representative here for that?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm also joined,
Can you please state your name? And
my name
address,
is
please?
Dave Erickson with Leisure Villas. I'm also joined by Keith Lindstrom, one of my partners, and Mark Johnson, our engineer. Mayor, council members, thanks for your time tonight. We'd also like to thank the staff who is in their efforts and guidance and helping us get through the necessary procedural issues and items required for approval, and especially to Sherry for helping push this to this meeting to accommodate my schedule. I was unable to attend the last city council meeting. We're here tonight to ask for approval of our West Haven Villas senior project. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to just make sure too. I had a couple things I just wanted to run over just as a city council.
Sure.
We have had an opportunity last time. We've had the city council, you were still on the schedule, even though, you decided not, or couldn't make it here. We had it set up so we were trying to make sure that the council had a chance to listen to the planning commission recordings from the 2 planning commission times and everything. I think they spent a lot of time just trying to review that so that we could be prepared for that. We also went through and just tried to really look and see if there was any changes or anything that came up. To this point right now, on kind of a yes or no, do we have any changes that have occurred since the time it was presented to the Planning Commission?
Okay, thank you.
Yes or no?
I'm sorry. Oh, do we have any changes?
Yes. Do you have any changes on that?
No.
No changes. Okay, so what I'd like to do, and I know you presented this to the council too, so we could look through. There's no changes though from the time that we had this from before.
That's correct.
Okay. So wondering if we could ask the council just real quick if there was any questions that you have for Mr. Erickson on this project.
I have none.
Okay. Any other council members, those that are online? No questions?
None from me.
Okay, thank you. Is there any?
I have a correction to that. We did make one minor change to address an issue that Sherry brought up related to positioning 2 buildings away from 2200, which we made that change and resubmitted that drawing. But it's not a material change to the packet,
Okay,
but it was done to accommodate a request.
okay.
And the site plan that is shown in there is accurate.
Okay, council, do you have any other concerns with any of the changes that he's brought forth to us?
I don't have any issues with the changes that he brought forth. I have issues with the 0 lot lines. We don't have 0 lot lines in the patio home ordinance.
I agree with that too. I think that this just doesn't fit in the zone.
Okay, well, if you'd like to make a motion, we can. If you have other questions or concerns.
I'll make a motion. I would move to deny ordinance 28-2022 master development agreement, preliminary subdivision, and site plan approval for West Haven Vias subdivision.
Second.
I need to interrupt. 0 lot lines are allowed in the ordinance. That was amended, so I don't understand that statement. 0 lot lines are clearly allowed as
lot lines-
amended in the ordinance. So
Lot lines are
did I hear
allowed.
that incorrectly?
They are allowed with an MDA,
Correct?
but we don't have to have an MDA.
We don't have to approve the MDA. This is denying the approval of the MDA. We don't have to do that.
The MDA that you proposed that we've accepted?
I didn't propose, this council has not proposed any MDA.
The city did
I
not
have
this
an
argument
MDA
prior.
from staff that was reviewed by the city attorney.
Sure.
We've
they can-
accepted
they
that.
can
We are on record
recommend-
accepting that MDA.
No,
Sorry,
no,
Mayor.
the council makes a legislative decision on whether or not they will accept the proposed MDA. It's a proposal. We don't actually have to accept it. This goes against our ordinance.
I'm
can-
sorry,
we
what
can
goes against
choose
your ordinance?
The
The
0
MDA
lot
that you
lines.
proposed?
Are you,
I'm confused. Maybe
The
you can
we
explain.
MDA
didn't, the-
Sorry, Councilmember Morse, I might be able to explain it.
yeah, go ahead.
The MDA that you were given is a draft to look at. There's a reason that on the top of it, it says not for final approval. An MDA is a legislative document that staff prepares, gives to the developer to let them know what staff is thinking. But because it's a legislative document, it has to be approved by the city council. with the legislative action, they are not obligated to approve it. There's nothing that me handing you that piece of paper, there's no rights that that vests you with because the legislative body hasn't approved it.
And you were told this by me in the planning commission meeting also, that this was a form that was provided, but did not mean that you were entitled to approval.
I guess I'm asking, do I get an opportunity to present our project, or are you just going to shut us down without? We've made application. We've spent thousands of dollars on getting to this point.
Mr. Erickson, please, we want to make sure we maintain overall. So we have already heard, if you have no changes that was presented to this council tonight, that was what the question was.
But we have not made any presentation yet to the council.
And has been made, and we've had a chance to listen to the planning commission as well. That's the same presentation. There's no changes really that you've made to the project.
There's no need to make any changes because we're in compliance with the ordinance. We are in full compliance with the ordinance. We are prepared to enter into the development agreement as presented. We should have a right to discuss our presentation, find out,
You have had that opportunity to have that, and
but
so
not before you.
we have researched that and gone through all that. If there's no changes, we've got a motion, we've got a second. So with that motion and the second, then we're going to move forward with it from there. So we'll do a vote right now, and that's what we'll follow through with. So on here, Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Swap,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
And it's a majority. So we appreciate you bringing it back. It's just that it doesn't fit into what we're looking for the overall city. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving forward, we'll move to action item on here, B, for final subdivision approval for Ponderosa subdivision, approximately at 1930 South, 1350 West. And this is with Black Pine. And do we have a representative here?
Before Alka and the applicant come up, I owe the applicant an apology because this is just a simple split and there's no dedication or improvements. When this came to the council before, it should have been preliminary and final at the same time, and I have a little egg on my face for making them come back because it was an oversight on my part.
Well, I bet you're really excited after that last one.
Hey, that's fine. Sherry, you've been great. You don't need to continue to apologize. Jordan Watson with Black Pine, just here for final approval on this simple subdivision request. This is the property next to Pilot Flying J. It's a vacant field that we're purchasing from them that needed to be split off of another parcel to finalize the transaction.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and just give your address as well for the record, please?
Of the property, of personally?
Just you personally.
Oh, 1634 West, 1850 North, Far West, Utah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to step in here and just reiterate. So nothing has been changed since the last plat you saw that was for preliminary. So just wanted to jump in and say that.
Okay.
And there has been no site plan that has been turned into us. So if, for any site development, they'll have to comply with that and they'll have to do a traffic study. But for this specifically, nothing has been changed.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the council have some questions?
I don't have any.
Do you know what you're putting here?
We don't. We intend to develop the property and we'll follow that process once we get to that point.
Chick-fil-A.
It's a little large for a Chick-fil-A, but that would be nice. I'd be the
large
hero in the
Chick-fil-A.
city if I brought a Chick-fil-A here.
We can always try.
We would name a street after you.
Hey, we've got something to aim for then.
Yeah.
Any other questions at all? Anything we can ask, or we can move right into a motion if you'd like?
I move that we approve final subdivision for Ponderosa subdivision, approximately 1930 South, 1350 West, Black Pine.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Sounds like we have it cleared. So
Thank
you're
you.
good to
Have
go.
a nice
Thank you
night.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number C. This is for a preliminary subdivision approval for parcel A, the Village at Green Farm subdivision, approximately 3700 south and 4450 west. And it has the parcel numbers on here with Nielsen Homes. We have a representative here.
While they're coming up, this is actually the portion of the project that sort of kicked off the whole thing with the third amendment to the MDA. And now that that's handled, we've circled back around to it. It hasn't changed since then. Just to clarify, the roads that are going to actually service the townhomes, those are going to be private roads. So the only road in this phase that the city is going to maintain is it 3650 or 3675?
3675.
It's the one that connects to 4700.
Yeah, 3675.
So, and we're actively working on getting that road completed. But yeah, this hasn't changed. It fits within the parameters of their MDA. Yeah.
The long-awaited road.
The long-awaited road. Yes. Yes. Brian Bayless, 1656 Equestrian Parkway.
Welcome
Happy
to
to-
West Haven.
Yes. The only difference, Sherry, I have one correction, one revision to your report. Jake Jones is no longer here. You're stuck with me. You guys effectively scared him off, so you're stuck with me.
Does that tell you anything?
He's Jake 2.0.
But
Jake too.
I'd be happy to be your pinata for the night. But yeah, answer any questions that you've got. You've seen this before, so.
I don't know that I specifically, but I had a resident read through the report and ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
The staff report says that the Green Farm HOA will be responsible for those roads,
That is not
but
correct.
it's not correct, right? It's just the,
So it's kind of correct, but not correct. So it's a good clarification question. This property has to have its own HOA. See in the central open space parcel 1 there's about an acre of property that will be identified and dedicated for an amenity. That will be part of the HOA in addition to all of these private roads. So they will have their own sub HOA of the overall Green Farm Master HOA. So it will have its own separate HOA that those residents will be paying for those roads. The other Green Farm residents where, the rest of Green Farm is, they will not be paying for these roads.
okay. And you're comfortable if we include that in the motion?
Absolutely.
Because they were quite concerned that this
Yeah.
is going to become theirs
Yeah,
and they
no.
don't get to use that or whatever it is.
Yeah, there will be open space that you can't fence off from people using, but the actual pool, clubhouse, all that stuff
Sure.
that these residents will have that the others won't because they won't be paying for it.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, you could include that in the motion. That would be great.
Okay.
It's probably a good clarification.
And when you came before, there was a discussion are these rentals or not? Oh, no.
Yeah. So right now we're platting them so that we could go either way. We have not yet made that decision, and some of it's going to be based on the market and what happens. But right now they're being platted for sale, and so that's kind of the direction we're going right now. But we may end up making these rentals again. We
So
haven't-
you're talking about a lease and not short-term rentals, right?
Yeah, it would be probably a year
Okay.
is what we would prefer. The shorter the rental term for us, the worse. So we usually try to stick those for a year.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, the commercial that would be on the north side, how deep is that?
How deep is it?
Yeah,
That's a
it's
great question.
fairly long. It's
Mayor,
pretty short. I'm just wondering what kind of
Yeah, I do. I do not have the dimensions on that, but I could get those. Yeah, Mike. For,
I think with the way that had to line up with 4700 with UDOT, it kind of changed how that would.
the difficulty, to Mike's point, Mayor, was just connecting to 3600 South. That was a road that originally the 3675 had to align with the 3600 South Street on the what is that? The west side of the road, And so that kind of, we had originally aligned that so that it swerved to the south and made that parcel to the north a little bit more functional and feasible. But given the fact that it had to line up with 3600 South, that was a requirement of UDOT to get our approvals that we're actually still working on to finalize. But I guess the hope is, or the intention is, that there's not a lot that we can do with that parcel until something happens to the property to the north. I think that property is obviously undeveloped and would make the most sense for commercial uses. That property owner would be well served to identify that as a commercial property. He'll likely be able to sell that for significantly more. So that would be the intent. But we don't control that property. But we did have the obligation to put this as commercial. So
Thank you. What other questions does council have?
Mayor, if I may
Yes.
take a turn here.
Yes.
I have a hard time with the idea of approving this with the question being whether or not these are rentals. There is no definitive answer here because, Brian, as you said, you guys don't know yet what you're planning to do with that. But the last time when Jake brought this in, that was the first time this had ever been brought up in the history of this project, that there may be rentals there. There is no mention of rentals in the MDA. And I'm certain that any public hearings that occurred years ago regarding this didn't mention rentals. And so the residents that live around there now never had a chance to speak up about rentals. And then lastly, typically rental homes, apartments, townhomes that are being rented should be close to mass transit. This is clear out west. It doesn't make any sense to have rental properties clear out west in an area where we're trying to maintain some agricultural fill. Those are my concerns. I don't like the idea of rentals being there at all.
it's fair. I guess, Nina, just a couple of points on the flip side, and I realize these might fall on concerns of yours that don't really address the heart of your issues. I guess we've looked at this community, and I think when it was marketed and presented to the city for approval, I think it was Sherry even quoted I think Sherry in the staff report even quoted the exact language where it talked about kind of cradle to grave, if I'm remembering that language right. So that was the language that was presented. It's kind of various housing alternatives for residents of West Haven. And so I would argue that this kind of helps on that element of it. You've got obviously attached patios that goes for those in the twilight of their life. You've got townhomes, for sale townhomes, and kind of everything in between. And then these kind of serve yet another segment of the market, one that I think is needed in today's economy and rates increasing and all of those things. So I guess this isn't me advocating saying for sure or definitively that we are going to do for rent. There's some kind of constraints on our business as well that has when you do a for rent project versus a for sale project. For sale, obviously, from a financial impact, has money coming in right to Nelson Homes right away. This has a very different impact. But again, all of that aside, that's on our Nelson Homes side. I realize you guys aren't entirely sympathetic to that. But it is a product segment that we think is important. And I guess, Nina, I know you're obviously a resident there of Green Farm, but other than one other resident that's here tonight, hopefully that's evidence to the council that this isn't a significant concern for them. Maybe it's the fact that they don't know that. I don't know how Nina's going to respond to that. She might not like that comment, but I think, again, it's an important segment of the market. There's not a lot of residents here kind of frustrated. It is on the far side of Green Farm, on the farthest east. It has usually, in our experience, Nina, we've designed and developed a significant amount of master plan communities. With this being on a major road with good access and obviously access to 4700 West, that's important to put next to major transportation corridors. So all of those things are good and important. I realize we may have a difference of opinion on a lot of these facts or issues, but from our perspective, we're trying to check all of the boxes, putting it next to busier roads, providing a lot of parking. There's 4 stalls plus visitor parking on top of that, so there's 4.5 stalls per resident. Each resident has a longer driveway. There's a clubhouse with nice amenities, ample amenities. The large open space, parcel 5 is just to the south, which is also included in this plat. So there will be a lot of open space in the area. We've tried to create a buffer from the existing residents to the extent that we could. As you look at the site plan on the right-hand side or on the east side of the subdivision, there's a significant amount of open space that will be well landscaped and act as kind of a screen to the residents to reduce
Brian.
the impact. Sure, Nina.
Sorry, I
Yep.
can't respond to everything you just said because I forgot some of it or forgot what my response would be. But I do want to say you mentioned the cradle to grave, and I get that. However, I'm very well aware of how Nielsen Homes writes contracts with the residents, and I know that Nielsen Homes strongly believes, and I had it said to me many times when I built my home, is that if it's not in the contract, we didn't talk about it. And I believe the same way. Rental homes is not in the contract, so we didn't talk about it. And I have a concern with that all of a sudden, these are going to be rental homes and residents didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's concerning. And maybe they're on, yes, they're right on 4700. However, there is no mass transit out west, and rental homes do better where there's mass transit. That's why we have rental homes on the east side of the city, not on the west side of the city. We don't have any rental property, no townhomes, apartments, anything like that on the west side of the city. I think this also opens up the city to more people, developers coming in and trying to put in rental homes on the west side of the city. And that's concerning as well. We start setting a precedent. I don't like that.
I have a little different take on it. I know some people who would love to live here that could not get a home loan. I think there is a group of people out there, that would make great neighbors that simply aren't able to purchase a home. So
I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that at all, Kim.
Okay.
I guess, Nina, the only thing that I will say in terms of how this was presented or represented to the residents that are buying, I guess that cuts both ways. I mean, we can get into a philosophical conversation on that. I don't want to go too deep into it. It's hard for me to say what was sold. I wasn't here. Number one, I'm not sitting in the office of what the sales agents are saying, and there's a lot that when you sell a community, it's as much information as you want to present to somebody. Oftentimes, it's there's just a lot that you can't present. There was a lot that was unknown at the time, and there's a lot of information that we could share, that we did share, and there's a lot of people that bought into the subdivision for those reasons. And then there's a lot that can't be shared and issues that have to be worked through. I guess, Nina, we're kind of relying on how ordinances typically work and how development typically works. In the way that it usually works is from a development perspective, is if it's not explicitly prohibited, then you, as the developer, you typically have the right to move forward on a matter such as this. And so that's, in our experience, how we've operated. And we've had a lot of legal opinions over the years that have kind of supported that. And there's a lot of court cases, kind of legal precedent for that. That's not necessarily the route that we want to go. Our hope is that we can continue to add to the great subdivision that Green Farm is, and that this will be one more kind of important component to the development in a location that, from our perspective, does make sense. The precedent issue is one that I don't know in terms of West Haven and how they approach it. I don't know how necessarily to address that. I would guess that there are a lot of single-family homes that are for rent. By a lot, that's probably an overstatement, but I'm guessing there are a handful. In terms of maybe a complex where you have a significant amount of townhomes or apartments, I could see that maybe not happening on the west side of West Haven. But again, I guess that's my...
Amy, can you add to that as well? Since it's not in the contract, is there?
They're not prohibited from renting. Frankly, anywhere in the city, if you own a home, you can rent it. It's a little bit different if you're changing your home, like a single family home, into a family sort of residence. But, frankly, anybody across the city could rent out their home at any time, and there's really nothing that the city can do. And And so, yeah, Brian is correct. Like, when it comes to this sort of thing, because it didn't say in the MDA that they cannot make them rentals, they would be able to do that if they want. Otherwise, if the city denies it, it can be deemed arbitrary and discriminatory regarding, a rental versus an ownership. Because frankly, they could sell one of these to somebody and they could just turn around and rent it, and there's really nothing that the city could do about that.
Weren't these defined in the MDA? And I don't have the MDA on me, so but weren't these defined in the MDA as single family townhomes?
I'll let Sherry answer that.
They were, but single family has nothing to do with whether would have to have been defined as owner occupied. And there's nothing in the MDA that requires any of the units in Green Farm, whether it's a single family detached, whether it's single family attached, there's no requirement that any of the homes be owner occupied. Owner occupancy requirements come in either through the requirement of an HOA or when someone wants to do something like an ADU. And just to speak to some of the broader concerns that residents have about rentals, from a code enforcement perspective, we have fewer issues with rentals than we do with owner-occupied properties, because they have an incentive to not get kicked out of their house by their landlord. The concerns that residents have with someone renting a house across the board are largely unfounded. It's a perception that's not based in much reality. And I don't say that to say that their concerns are understandable, but in my 15 plus years of doing this, the biggest issues I've had in terms of code enforcement, utility bill payment, nuisance complaints are not renters. And so I say that as someone who rents an apartment in a neighborhood that was built on as a house. So I guess I have a little bit of a skewed perspective on it, but also from a professional perspective, that's not where the issues that we have are.
And these will be professionally managed. We will have an HOA company that will come in and manage these and manage the HOA. That's important. I know the city has probably lots of examples that HOA have gone defunct, but there's going to be amenities here. These things are nice. We want them to be nice.
My guess is it's not lower income apartments, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Amy, can I go back to your response? You mentioned, obviously, we can't regulate somebody renting their house, right? I get that. That's fine. But what you're saying is the city has no say at all in developments being rentals, ever.
No, I'm saying that we don't have a say with this particular one being, if in the future somebody brings something to us and we do an MDA with it, it could have been put in there. But it wasn't. About that none of these would be used as a developer rental sort of situation. But we didn't with this MDA and the MDA controls. And so it's not a precedent-setting thing with this particular project because this MDA is what controls the development, and it's so very specific to the development, and it's not specific to anything else. So there's a possibility of being able to control something like that in the future. We just can't on this particular one. But it would only be able to be controlled if it was by an MDA.
Nina, you raised another question about success of the for rent projects being next to transit, and I do not agree that those are usually more successful. And by successful, I guess it's better in terms of accessibility for the residents that will live there. But anyway, these won't have access to mass transit other than bus routes that will be kind of in the neighborhood that any resident in this area would have access to.
We don't have any bus routes out there.
Okay. And I guess the only point that I was making is to say, it's important that you put these next to major thoroughfares and roads, which we've tried to do. And it's also a good buffer for the commercial properties that are there just to the west. Oftentimes residents that buy their own home don't necessarily appreciate living next to future commercial properties. And then I think the last thing that I would just mention as well is to say, when the West Davis corridor comes through here, eventually, obviously, there will be improved access to this area. It won't be that far from here, but also something that we felt was important to keep in mind. So,
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve preliminary subdivision approval for Parcel A, the Village at Green Farms subdivision, approximately 3700 south and 4450 west, to include that the HOA will be by the village's HOA, not the Grand
the
Green
master.
Farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
HOA.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and vote on that one. And what we'll do with that one is go, I don't think we need to do a roll call on that one. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we have a motion that passes on there, so thank you very much.
You made it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Thanks for the discussion on that. On item 8, we'll move on action on resolution 33-2022, a license agreement between Hooper Irrigation Company and the West Haven City, approximately 2700 west, 2190 south. And I'm not sure who's...
I'll be taking that. Our city engineer had a personal conflict, so he asked me to cover on this. What this is an agreement with Hooper Irrigation Canal to allow us to put a storm drain siphon underneath it. Currently, this is an issue where our storm drain drains into their irrigation canal, something that we need to remediate and repair. And so we have this budgeted in for a capital plan of $60,000 out of the storm drain fund. This agreement just gets permission from Hooper Irrigation Canal for us to do the work this winter and early spring before they start irrigating this next year.
And this was in the budget, right?
Yes, and there's no cost on this agreement, no bond, no nothing. It's just more or less formalizes and legalizes us to do the work and impact their canals. So we'd ask for the council to approve it so we can sign it and get that going. We do have the design of the siphon ready to go out to bid. We just need to get this in place before we send it out.
You don't foresee any increases in the bid process or in the budget?
In today's environment, I'm not sure. I'm hoping not. But like I said, we have $60,000 in there. Tomorrow we'll have a bid opening for 3300 South, which includes some storm drain work, and we'll have a good indicator on how prices are compared to our estimates. But we'll come back to the council with updates on that.
Any other questions, council? Okay, ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve action on resolution 33-2022, license agreement between Hooper Irrigation Company and West Haven City, approximately 2700 west, 2190 south.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on that one. And Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Excellent, thank you. We'll move on to item number 9, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay,